The FBI, the agency meant to protect every American, is now operating without a map, without a plan, and without accountability. Senator Patty Murray didn't walk into that hearing expecting chaos, but what she uncovered was far worse than anyone imagined. Under Director Kash Patel's leadership, the nation's top law enforcement agency is quite literally flying blind. No functioning budget, no timeline, no answers. And behind the silence lies a system unraveling from the inside. At first, the tension in the room felt ordinary, just another oversight hearing, but within minutes it became clear this wasn't oversight. It was exposure.
I am following the law, and I'm working with my interagency partners to do this and get you the budget that you are required to have.
And you have no timeline?
No.
Well, we also need a full budget request, not a single paragraph full of wild talking points that we saw with the skinny budget proposal. We're now having a budget hearing without a budget request. So, Director Patel, where is the FY 2026 budget request for the FBI?
It's being worked on, ma'am.
Have you reviewed it? Have you approved it?
Not yet.
When will we get it?
As soon as I can get it from my interagency partners and get it approved.
6 months from now?
I don't know, ma'am. I'm not going
Well,
to make
how
up a
do
timeline.
we as Congress do our budget and our work without that request and without the spend plan?
Well, ma'am, I'm here. I'm
don't
doing the
care.
best I can. I can't make up answers. I'm going to commit to you to work on getting you the information you need.
That is insufficient and deeply disturbing. No response?
I've given my response.
Well, the FBI is already down 1,900 employees since 2023 as a direct result of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. And under the Trump administration, FBI agents, analysts, linguists, cyber experts, and scientists are being asked to do a lot more in order to keep us safe. Director Patel, we all know that budget cuts will reduce the FBI's ability to counter threats of terrorism, and it will hinder its ability to keep pace with firearm background checks and shutter operations that combat violent crime, drugs, gangs, and transnational organized crime. Now, I understand that you told our House colleagues yesterday that you don't want to reduce the FBI workforce, meaning that you disagree with what President Trump is proposing?
No, I agree that we can sustain the mission with the proposed budget, and I agree with the budget. And as I said yesterday, I believe that what I said was I can do more with more. And I gave examples of what more we could do if we were given more.
Well, it's different than what you told the House yesterday. So what are you communicating to the President and the White House about what you need? And again, we don't have a budget request from you, so I'm not sure what you're asking us for.
I'm not asking you for anything at this time.
You can operate without a budget?
I never said that.
Well, this is unprecedented. Okay, well, let me just go to another topic since you're not going to answer that. The FBI partners with state, local, and tribal law enforcement organizations. They provide critical intelligence and operational capabilities to combat violent crime and gangs and terrorist threats, fentanyl trafficking, challenges that our local communities really can't face alone. I'm going to give you an example. A few years ago, the Southeast Washington Safe Streets FBI Task Force worked with our Benton County and Franklin County Sheriff's Office, multiple Tri-Cities police departments, and the State Corrections Department to carry out one of the largest ever drug seizures in the region's history. Now we've got an administration already cutting more than $800 million in assistance in 2025 to local law enforcement organizations while proposing a $500 million cut for the FBI. Director Patel, can you explain to this committee how cutting resources for our local law enforcement partner agencies the FBI relies on to help your bureau keep safe? How do you expect the FBI and local law enforcement to do more without those significant resources they need?
The FBI will continue to do what it does, which is work with embedded state and local law enforcement officers in our Joint Terrorism Task Force, in our Safe Streets Task Force, in our gang task forces. Those are a priority. Those billets have been maintained. Those billets have not been reduced. And with my reorientation, reprogramming that we've notified Congress to, you will see an augmentation in the field in every single state in this country.
Well, again, we need to see the numbers and we need to see that budget from you. Let me ask you about the NICS system. The FBI is really on the front lines of keeping guns out of the hands of very dangerous criminals. The NICS serves a really critical role in enhancing national security and public safety by conducting background checks. You know this. They are supported by the vast majority of American people, and I wanted to ask you this morning, will you commit to continuing to fund and run the FBI background check system?
Yes.
Thank you. I want to ask one final question here, Mr. Chairman. I want to talk again about how the FBI is focusing its resources. President Trump has turned the Department of Justice into a tool to go after his perceived enemies, and many of the actions we have now seen at the FBI are alarming. The FBI has reassigned and pushed out career FBI agents for political reasons. We have seen fear and intimidation promoted throughout the Bureau, including by polygraphing your own staff. We've seen the arrest of a sitting judge in Wisconsin, and during your confirmation hearing, you committed that there would be no politicization, no retribution at the FBI under your leadership. You've reportedly placed FBI employees responsible for investigation January 6 cases on leave. Is that keeping up your promise of no politicization, no retribution?
It is, because that's wildly inaccurate. Let me tell you what the FBI has done since I got there. 8,276 federal arrests, to 820 kilograms seized of fentanyl. That's enough to kill 250,000 people, over 3,000 firearms seized, 350 gang cases, 3,000 cases against violent
Well,
criminals.
that's not my question. We know that you...
Well, you asked if I was weaponizing the FBI, and I am not. I'm giving you the hard, concrete examples of the men and women putting handcuffs on bad people, doing harm to our children and innocent Americans. I do not see weaponization.
You have placed on leave FBI employees responsible for the investigation of January 6th. That sounds political to me.
I have not placed anyone on leave who has not violated their ethical obligation or their oath to the Constitution.
So if they were investigating January 6th, you believe they were violating an ethical obligation?
Nope. I think
Murray opened by reminding everyone of what's at stake: the FBI's role in stopping terrorists, protecting children, and shielding America from cyber threats. High-stakes work that demands focus, funding, and leadership. Yet under Patel, that foundation is collapsing. Because instead of defending the country, the Bureau has been quietly defunded and stripped of over 1,900 employees, agents, analysts, linguists, and scientists since 2023. Nearly 2,000 trained professionals gone. And when pressed on how he plans to fix it, Patel had no answers. No numbers, no plan, just confusion. You could feel the frustration in Murray's voice when she asked a simple question: where is the FBI's budget? That's not politics, that's the law. Every federal agency must submit a detailed spend plan. The FBI didn't. It was due more than a week ago. When Murray asked Patel if he'd even reviewed the 2025 budget, his response stunned the room. I don't have a timeline, he said flatly. Not even a rough estimate, not even a promise to comply. Imagine hearing that from the head of the FBI, the man responsible for billions in taxpayer dollars. And it got worse. When Murray pressed further, asking about the 2026 request, Patel admitted it wasn't ready either. It's being worked on, he said, but worked on by who? He couldn't say. He hadn't reviewed it. He hadn't approved it. He hadn't even seen it. Congress can't build a national security budget without knowing what the FBI needs. Yet here was the director testifying under oath, unable to say when or how that information would ever arrive. Murray called it what it was: unprecedented. And she's right. The FBI's entire fiscal structure is missing, and the person in charge is shrugging it off like it's a minor paperwork delay. But this isn't about paperwork, this is about whether America's top intelligence service is being quietly dismantled. Because when an agency this critical stops functioning transparently, it stops functioning at all. Then came the revelation that nearly 2,000 FBI staff members are already gone. That's not budget trimming, that's disarmament. Every one of those departures means fewer agents tracking violent crime, fewer experts preventing cyber attacks, fewer officers stopping child exploitation networks. It's the equivalent of pulling police off the streets while pretending everything's fine. Murray warned that these cuts would cripple the FBI's ability to counter threats and enforce federal law. But Patel insisted he could do more with less. That line landed like a joke that no one laughed at, because everyone in that room knew what less means in law enforcement. Less coverage, less protection, less justice. Murray asked what Patel had communicated to the White House about his needs. His answer: "I'm not asking for anything at this time." Think about that, a federal agency that's been defunded, demoralized and downsized by nearly 2,000 people, and the director isn't asking for help. That's not leadership, that's surrender. Murray moved on to the partnerships that make FBI operations work, local and state collaborations that prevent gang violence and drug trafficking. She mentioned a major operation in Washington state that seized record levels of narcotics thanks to FBI coordination. But those same partnerships are now on the chopping block. Over $800 million in aid to local law enforcement is set to be cut. When asked how the FBI would continue to do more with less, Patel repeated his line, claiming local task forces were maintained and augmented. Yet again he offered no data, no documents, no proof. And that's when the hearing took a darker turn from numbers to motives. Murray shifted the focus from budgets to behavior. She accused Patel's bureau of becoming politicized, of being weaponized to go after Americans who disagree with those in power. She pointed to reports that career agents, including those investigating January 6th and Russian election interference, had been reassigned, silenced, or forced out. These weren't random staffers. These were national security professionals, people trained to uphold the law, now punished for doing exactly that. Patel pushed back hard. He rattled off statistics, arrests, drug seizures, operations as if numbers could erase the accusation. He insisted there was no weaponization, no retribution, no politics. But his defensiveness spoke volumes. When Murray asked if placing agents on leave for investigating January 6th was political, Patel shot back, "No, I have not placed anyone on leave who hasn't violated their oath." A statement that sounded less like reassurance and more like justification. And when she brought up the removal of an analyst involved in the Russian investigation, Patel brushed it off again. "Not if she broke ethical guidelines," he said. Over and over he sidestepped accountability with vague denials and recycled talking points. The longer it went on, the clearer it became. This wasn't transparency, it was deflection. Every question led to another dead end. Every answer sounded rehearsed. And behind Patel's calm delivery, you could sense the calculation: say as little as possible, admit nothing, and wait for the clock to run out. But Murray wasn't letting it slide. She called out what millions of Americans are now realizing, that the FBI's independence is in jeopardy. Its credibility, its funding, even its workforce are being hollowed out from within. The Bureau's power has always depended on one thing: trust. The trust that it serves the law, not politics. But what happens when that trust is gone? As Patel's evasions piled up, the hearing shifted from oversight to alarm. Murray's closing words captured what so many were thinking: the FBI must be focused on its mission to keep every American safe, not to serve partisan goals. And that's when the truth hit home. This isn't just about one man or one budget. It's about whether the nation's most powerful investigative agency can survive being politicized, defunded, and stripped of independence. Outside that hearing room, the numbers are chilling. 1,900 agents gone. Hundreds of millions in cuts, a leadership team that can't provide a single detailed plan, and a director who insists everything's under control. But this isn't control, it's corrosion. Slowly, quietly, the infrastructure that protects the country from crime, terrorism, and foreign interference is being chipped away piece by piece. Imagine what that means on the ground. A field office short-staffed, leaving leads unpursued. A cybercrime unit waiting on outdated equipment. A counter-terrorism analyst forced to cover 3 states instead of 1. This isn't hypothetical, this is happening now. When you gut the system meant to safeguard the nation, you don't just weaken the agency, you weaken the country. And Murray knows that. That's why she sounded the alarm. This hearing wasn't about grandstanding or headlines, it was about accountability. The public deserves to know where their money is going, who's making the decisions, and why basic transparency has vanished. Because when oversight fails, corruption thrives. What's unfolding here isn't bureaucracy, it's strategy. You don't destroy an institution like the FBI overnight. You do it slowly, by starving it of funding, silencing dissenters, and replacing experience with loyalty. By turning compliance into defiance and transparency into secrecy. You let the agency rot while pretending it's reform, and when the damage is done, you call it efficiency. That's why this hearing matters so much. It's not just about missing paperwork or tense exchanges, it's about the warning signs of a system in decline. If the FBI can ignore legal deadlines, if it can purge investigators who uncover inconvenient truths, if it can shrug off congressional oversight, what's next? Murray's confrontation with Patel exposed more than mismanagement. It exposed a mindset, a belief that accountability is optional, and that belief is dangerous, because every time a leader evades a question, every time a law is ignored, every time oversight is mocked, democracy itself takes a hit. The erosion isn't loud, it's quiet, and that's what makes it so effective. Right now, the nation's top law enforcement agency doesn't have a complete budget, a workforce plan, or a clear strategy to protect the public. And the people at the top seem unbothered. That's not leadership, that's neglect disguised as confidence. The FBI's mission has always been to protect and defend the United States against terrorist and foreign intelligence threats. But you can't defend a country you've stopped being honest with. Patty Murray didn't expose a small oversight, she exposed a systemic collapse. An institution once seen as untouchable is now floundering without structure, direction, or integrity. And that should terrify every American, because when institutions that are meant to guard the truth start hiding it, the line between protection and power begins to blur. So what happens next? That depends on us. This story isn't just a hearing, it's a wake-up call. When 1,900 agents disappear, when Congress can't get straight answers, when oversight is treated like an inconvenience, it's no longer just a bureaucratic issue, it's a threat to national security. If you're watching this, don't scroll past it. This is one of those moments when silence becomes complicity. The more people who understand what's happening behind closed doors, the harder it becomes for leaders to hide it. Share this video. Leave a comment with what you think Congress should do next. And most importantly, hit like and subscribe. Because we're going to keep following this story, digging deeper, and exposing what others won't. The truth doesn't disappear when people stop talking about it. It disappears when no one's left to ask the hard questions, and right now, the only way to protect accountability is to demand it. So stay tuned, stay informed, and don't look away. Because this fight for transparency, it's only just beginning.